Hi there. I thought we'd begin today's video by checking in with a ardent globular advocate and a fellow called Dave McKeegan. Take it away, Dave.
Hello everybody, hope you're doing well and thanks for joining us for another video. One of the most fundamental observations for centuries regarding the shape of the Earth has been objects disappearing from view bottom up, in exactly the same way as we see other things go out of view bottom first over curved surfaces. Flat Earthers, though, of course, need to provide alternate explanations for bottom-up obstruction. In recent videos, I've tackled claims that it's changing atmospheric conditions. Those are too inconsistent and not always matching what we should see if those were the case. And I've also tackled claims that it's perspective, allowing small objects nearby to obscure distant objects due to angular size differences.
And those are the things we're going to cover in this video too, Dave.
Which is flat earthers getting perspective completely wrong. And today I'll be tackling a demonstration I've seen multiple flat earthers put forward of apparent proof that bottom-up obstruction would naturally occur across a flat surface. The demonstration in question involves...
He goes on to talk about a demonstration over a table. Mitchell from Australia did it, Flat Out Truth did it, and although it's not a perfect test, it is a good example, but there's always been controversy over whether people's lenses are below the surface, above the surface, and the real issue I take with small object tests, is that the plane of a table cannot really do justice to a plane the size of the Earth. This is a channel called Don't Sphere the Truth. He's gone into great detail exposing Dave McKeegan's silliness and the basic thinking that goes into his understanding behind the way perspective works. Yes, Dave does talk about things like refraction and the mirroring effect of mirage. There's compression angles. There's a lot of things to discuss when we talk about things disappearing over the horizon in the distance. But at the end of the day, I recommend you watch all of these comprehensive videos put together by Don't Sphere the Truth, because he doesn't really just snip little things that were silly that Dave said. He goes into detail, pretty much covering everything that Dave said that's nonsensical, and he gives examples. But what I'm going to do today is we'll take a look at a running track where there's a significant distance, a long plane, and I'm going to put a camera low to the ground, and then we will be able to experience the disappearance of objects bottom first as they walk off into the distance. But first, let's take a look at this children's book. So this is a page from a children's science book from the local library that I was sent by a friend. So I don't have the name of the book just yet, but I will get it, and I'll leave the information in the description. So this section is called How to Be a Scientist, and it goes into a couple of little simple tests. It shows the child that they can move a small object back and forth over the surface of a football and it will disappear bottom first, but if they try the same thing on a small piece of cardboard, the same case is not true. This is true, but the Earth as a plane is not a limited little piece of cardboard. It has to go on vastly into the distance so that you do get a horizon, and your lens should meet its limit at that horizon, and beyond that then things will start to disappear bottom first. But that's not going to happen on a tiny piece of cardboard, or as with Dave McKeegan's Flat Earthers Confused by a Table video, where Dave is using a massive camera and looking across a table. Absolutely preposterous. That could never be a decent demonstration. I know he's just playing along with some other people that have done similar stuff, but I just don't think it helps the discussion much either way. And just a couple of other examples of how they don't mind informing the children is to say that this little experiment here, this proves that the Earth is round, and then this one here, this proves that the Earth is not flat. So they're telling children right out the gate that these silly little tests prove something. No, these would be evidence toward your case. They don't prove anything in and of themselves, but they're starting to inform you. And that's the way absorbing information works. They like to get the children at a young age, misinform them, and then by the time they become adults, the concept and idea that the Earth could be flat seems so preposterous to the adult, especially when it's enforced by their authorities, giving them pictures of Earth from space and actors doing their performance theater, but in a very, well, convincing way if you're not looking for details. It's easy to overlook things and just trust the authorities. I think that's why everybody benefits by paying a little more attention and doing their own research. Okay, let's get started on this running track example. Okay, so here we are at the running track, and I'll say that this is just a preliminary video. I've been here a couple of days. I've seen some really good effects like mirages that I think really replicate very closely what we see in the wild out over the surface of water, happening over the level and flat surface of a running track. But this is a good day here for, you know, not really a lot of those kind of effects. The concept is that your lens is positioned low to the ground. So let me see. I set my camera up about here on the running track. And my camera looked like this. This is what I had. I have a little roll of paper, receipt paper, and then I taped the camera to it so that I would get a nice 90-degree angle. Now the lens, as you can see, is very close to the surface, half an inch, and we're looking down a, running track, 100 meters minimum. All right, so the camera is set up here, and the direction of travel of our people is this way. By the time people start to get down here, the shoes start going away entirely. So we're going to mostly observe this lady's shoe. The bottom of her shoe we'll call the hull of the ship, and then the top part, the gray part on the top of her shoe, could be the mast and the sails, because that's the kind of scale we're talking about. This lens, obviously, in full scale life, there's nothing as tall as these human beings, but when we consider the shoe to be a boat, that makes sense. So I'm also going to point out what happens when people run around the running track on the bottom. The first thing you'll notice is they get covered up as far as almost their waist, and then by the time they get around here, they're almost concealed right up to their shoulders. And that's not just because of perspective, that's actually because of the grass. This grass is very well cut at the moment that I filmed this, but it's still taller than the plane of the running track, and it is adding a lot to obscuring the people as they run around the bottom of the track. When people first start to run around behind the grass, which begins about here, you can see that it almost looks like they're heading downhill because they're up to their waist around this position, and then almost up to their shoulders by the time they're here. Now that's a lot of obfuscation over a flat surface. Zero curvature. Let's take a look. Boat is sailing away. Still see the white hull. We can still see the gray mast, and as you can see over here, people are up to their shoulders behind the grass. Look, waist high and getting up to their shoulders. That is more to do with the grass than perspective, but perspective is still a big part of it. Okay, let's pause her for a second now. We're just barely able to see the white. I'm not going to zoom in on this. We'll take a look at a few stills in a moment. Again, almost up to their waist at this point. But as she walks around, her shoes are now starting to go away. Just keep looking for those white flashes as she takes her steps. Still see it? But you're not seeing the very bottom of her shoes at this stage. You're just barely seeing some white. And eventually, her shoes will be completely obscured. Even when she lifts them up to walk, as you can see with these guys, as they run behind the grass at the end of the track. So her shoes are now gone, except for when she lifts her feet. Remarkable. There you go. All right, here we are inside the photo editor. I'm just going to click through these images. I've zoomed in quite a bit. That's why the image resolution is a little pixelated, but we'll be able to determine if we're seeing her shoe or not with more clarity here. So this is I've just taken a series of screenshots from the video, and I'll just click through it. So there's the first shot of her shoe. And again, we're watching this shoe here. We'll also keep an eye on these runners as they run around the bottom end of the track. And just to remind you, this is the grass. It's a tightly cut football field, but nonetheless, that grass is going to contribute quite significantly to blocking out the lower part of this image. And there's the next shot. So you can already see, if we look over here, this runner is up to his waist, concealed a lot by the grass. This guy too. Clicking on. Still see her shoe. We can still see her shoe. Again, we're still seeing the white shoe at the bottom of her leg there. Okay, two shoes just barely, but quite a bit concealed. I think we're pretty much losing that shoe now. Legs only, except for the back of that shoe that's lifted. And you can definitely see that the bottom part of her legs, also known as her feet, are fully obscured by the angular resolution failing to resolve. Now as she goes around here, she's starting to get close to the grass. We're almost knee-high in concealment, and basically getting close to her waist here as she goes behind the grass. For the final shot, right up to her waist. So no doubt about it, this is ground-up obstruction due to angular resolution issues.